So over the last few days since Charlie Kirk was assassinated, I have immersed myself into the world of MAGA, consuming hours on top of hours of far-right content. And today's video is basically a report on what I found. How it led to the murder of Charlie Kirk, what could have led to the radicalization of Tyler Robinson, and what the broader implications are for our country and society. This will be one of the most eye-opening videos you'll see, so please stay until the end. This is a Pragmotiv News special presentation, and I'm your host, Trey. So before we get started, I want to say for the record that I 100% condemn political violence and reject the notion of killing people because you don't agree with their views. Even if those views are dangerous and harmful, no one should be killed for speaking their mind in America or anywhere in the world for that matter. So as a Catholic and a person who lives with Jesus in his heart, I do send my thoughts and prayers to the Kirk family, as well as the shooting victims of Evergreen High School in Colorado that took place on the same day. Now let's get started. So for those who don't know, this is who Charlie Kirk is. Here's his bio. Charles James Kirk was an American conservative political activist, author, and media personality. He co-founded the student organization called Turning Point USA back in 2012 and was its executive director. His rhetoric was described as divisive, racist, xenophobic, and extreme by groups that studied hate speech, including the Southern Poverty Law Center. Here are some of Kirk's most outrageous quotes. "If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified." That was him back in January 2024. "If you're a WNBA pot-smoking black lesbian, do you get treated better than a United States Marine?" he said. "Happening all the time in urban America, prowling blacks go around for fun to go target white people. That's a fact. It's happening more and more." It continues. "If I'm dealing with somebody in customer service who's a moronic black woman, I wonder, is she there because of her excellence or is she there because of affirmative action?" And then this one. "If we would have said that Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called racist. Now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. You don't have the brain power to otherwise be taken really seriously," he said. "You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewhat seriously." And that was July 2023. So yeah, he really did say that. And I know that JD Vance tried to lie today and say that he didn't say that. But here's the proof.
The writer accuses Charlie of saying, and I quote, "Black women do not have brain processing power to be taken seriously." But if you go and watch the clip, the very clip she links to, you realize he never said anything like that. He never uttered those words.
If we would have said that Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called the racist. But now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. They're coming out and they're saying, "I'm only here because of affirmative action." Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewhat seriously.
So his quotes continue. He said, "Reject feminism, submit to your husband, Taylor. You're not in charge." This was in response to him discussing the news, or in response to Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's engagement on the Charlie Kirk show just this past August 26, 2025. Then the next quote, "The answer is yes, the baby would be delivered," responding to a question about whether he would support his 10-year-old daughter aborting a pregnancy conceived because of rape on the debate show Surrounded. Okay, and then we have the next one. "We need to have a Nuremberg-style trial for every gender-affirming clinic doctor We need it immediately. So, in case you don't know, the Nuremberg trials were a series of military tribunals, primarily the International Military Tribunal from 1945 to 1946, where high-ranking officials of Nazi Germany were prosecuted for their actions during World War II, including war crimes, crimes against peace, and crimes against humanity. So now we continue with more Charlie Kirk quotes. He said, quote, "The American Democrat Party hates this country. They want to see it collapse. They love it when America becomes less white." And that was March 2024. And then he also said, "The Great Replacement Strategy, which is well underway every single day in our southern border, is a strategy to replace white rural America with something different." That was on his show, again, March 2024. Here's some quotes that he had on Islam. Quote, "America has freedom of religion, of course, but we should be frank. Large, dedicated Islamic areas are a threat to America," he says. And then the next one. "We've been warning about the rise of Islam on the show to a great amount of backlash. We don't care. That's what we do here. And we said that Islam is not compatible with Western civilization." June 25. And then he said, "Islam is the sword the left is using to slit the throat of America." September 2025. His last quote, "There's no separation of church and state. It's a fabrication. It's a fiction," he says. "It's not in the Constitution. It's made up by secular humanists." So while the exact words separation of church and state do not appear in the Constitution, the United States Constitution clearly states in the Establishment Clause that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, which means that the United States government can't favor one religion over the other or support religious activities. All right, so now that we got through his quotes, let's unpack the quotes. The right is trying to argue that these quotes are taken out of context, and to that, I call bullshit. These quotes are obviously not just political views, they are sexist, racist, and unchristian. There is no context that exists that would ever make saying those things okay. I mean, Charlie Kirk is stating that a black pilot who went to school and received the same training as a white pilot is not qualified to fly just because of the color of their skin. That sounds like a clear definition of racism to me. You're questioning whether the former First Lady of the United States, a duly elected Congresswoman, a sitting Supreme Court Justice, and a journalist with a degree from one of the most prestigious universities in the world have the mental capacity to do their jobs just because of the color of their skin. And then you take it a step further and say that they are occupying white jobs. That's fucking white supremacy. Now, here's a clip that recently surfaced from Kirk's speech on gun violence.
I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal.
So in the months and weeks before Kirk was assassinated, multiple people on the far right expressed their displeasure with Charlie Kirk, basically for not being far right enough. Yeah, imagine that. Imagine where we are in this country where those quotes from Charlie Kirk weren't far right enough. So first you had this video from Nick Fuentes, who is another far-right activist, leader of the Groypers, which is an online network of white nationalists. And he is listed as a white supremacist within Justice Department filings and with organizations including the Anti-Defamation League. So take a look at the video.
Manipulate the language and people will eat that up and they'll repeat it right back to you. Just like Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk, as you know, we brought him up earlier. He said when Israel started attacking Iran, he said, we need to stay out of it because that's what everybody was feeling. Yeah. But then when we got involved, he said, well, we need to stay out of it offensively. because we were shooting down Iran's missiles and we supported Israel's strike.
Defensively, yeah.
Right. Well, he said, we can be in it defensively, but not offensively. And everyone said, okay. Then Trump said, we may have to bomb their nukes. And Charlie Kirk said, well, Trump always said we were going to bomb their nukes. He said they can never get a bomb. So we're okay with that offensive action. Then Trump did it, and the next day said on True Social, regime change comes from the bottom up. And Charlie Kirk said, well, some regime changes are okay. And you see how over 2 weeks, he kind of strung everybody along. And we started with, we need to stay out of it, to, well, we bombed them offensively, that's okay, and maybe some regime change we're okay with.
Like the goalpost keeps changing.
Yes. And people fall for it heavily.
Yeah.
So then you had this tweet from Laura Loomer, a Trump ally and far-right political activist and conspiracy theorist. She said, quote, I don't ever want to hear at Charlie Kirk 11 claim he is pro-Trump ever again. After this weekend, I'd say he has revealed himself as a political opportunist, and I have had a front row seat to witness the mental gymnastics these last 10 years, end quote. She's since deleted this tweet, by the way. So in the immediate aftermath of the shooting, Republicans took to the TV, internet, and anywhere else they could get an audience to push the false narrative that the shooter was from the left. They went even further and called for war on the left.
The left has been saying put a bullseye on Trump, a bullseye on his supporters.
Charlie Kirk's a casualty of war. We're in this country. We are.
They are at war with us. Whether we want to accept it or not, they are at war with us. And what are we going to do about it?
And then they continued. They continued to spread the misinformation about the identity of the shooter with no regard for the consequences. I mean, just look at what South Carolina's Nancy Mace had to say.
This shit ends. Like, enough is enough. And now I have to deal with real safety concerns. It sounds like the shooter was a tranny or pro-tranny. And just because I want to protect women, that I'm worried about getting murdered? Are you fucking kidding me? It's out of control, and enough is enough. And I'm going to double down on this. I'm going to be more vigilant than ever. I'm going to be louder than I've ever been until this shit stops. It's got to stop.
So what do y'all think happened because of all of that rhetoric? This led to multiple threats being called into historically black colleges and universities across the entire country, including Virginia State University, Hampton University in Virginia, and Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, among others. And even after this, they still, you have that one? Yeah, that's the article that was talking about the campus threats that they received. And a lot of them had to close for the rest of the week because of this. So even after this, they still weren't deterred. They continued with the rhetoric from Donald Trump all the way down. They say the Democrats and left-leaning influencers are pushing for political violence when this is what they're doing on their side. Exhibit A, a look at Donald Trump.
Days, boom, firing squad. No, it's true. Boom, gun, bang, bing, bong. When we were strong, bing, and it goes quickly, right? It's called, you're dead.
So if that wasn't enough, take a look at Megyn Kelly's rhetoric and keep in mind everything I just showed you about Charlie Kirk. In this first clip, she tries to defend Kirk's assertion that the Civil Rights Act was a mistake.
Prior to the reign of Lyndon B. Johnson, who infantilized the black community, setting them back by generations with his Great Society programs. Do some homework. This is a mainstream school of thought within the intellectual African-American community. Never mind. That's where Charlie got it. Fuck you for not doing your homework and just trying to paint him as some crazy racist. was just ridiculous. That's the New York Times' take, okay? So I have been avoiding taking all this on because I just, like, you're not going to convince these people, and why should we bother? Who gives a shit? We've already moved on without them. You can't persuade them. You can't persuade these lunatics who are online celebrating that Charlie's dead to be kind. Save it, Utah governor. You can't. All right, just stop. It's like these people need to be defeated, not reasoned with. All we can worry about is motivating our side. It's like Don Jr. said. We had somebody who reached out to the other side and would listen to them and debate on fair terms. And to quote Don exactly, they fucking killed him. He's not wrong.
So next, Megyn decided that she would attack black anchor and former NFL wide receiver Nate Burleson for just doing his job.
Not everyone took to his words or his rhetoric. You know, at times they were offensive to specific communities. But with that said, this is not the time to focus on that. We are focused on this tragedy. Speaking of this tragedy, is this a moment for your party to reflect on political violence? Is it a moment for us to think about the responsibility of our political leaders and their voices and what it does to the masses as they get lost in misinformation or disinformation that turns in and spills into political violence?
You absolute asshole. What a dick. Is this a time for your party, Mr. Former Republican Speaker, to reflect on political violence? Whose candidate almost got his head blown off a year ago? You total fucking douchebag. My God. It's time for Republicans to reflect on political violence, that your party and your leader needs to reflect on his rhetoric. Have you taken a look at Blue Sky? Did you look up and down what's left of the leftists on Twitter to see what they're saying in response to Charlie being shot down in the prime of his life? I'm infuriated by that guy. How dare he? And then he kicks it off by saying, oh, yeah, Charlie was offensive. He's basically saying Charlie was a bigot. You know, what he said about certain communities. Fuck you. You don't know the first thing. You believe the bullshit that you read on Blue Sky. Then you go sit in that seat and you try to blame Republicans for political violence when Charlie isn't even buried yet. You utter asshole. You are too stupid and partisan to be in front of a camera. You should be fired. Your ass should be fired. Now they have a new CBS ombudsman that's supposed to reach out to Republicans. Great job. Great job. You suck. But welcome to the new boss, same as the old boss. Somebody needs to call the ombudsman, because you have a lunatic sitting on CBS this morning. Who was the balance? Gayle King. Gayle, who said, oh, well, I think both parties engage in it. Oh, that's the balance. It's the Republicans who have a violence problem and a rhetoric problem, and Trump is the problem, and Charlie was a bigot. Oh, but, you know, both sides kind of engage in it a little bit. Oh, thanks, Gayle. To the moon.
So for the record, the guy who attempted to assassinate President Trump was a registered Republican. But she then continued this message about vengeance and ended with this despicable rant about President Obama.
I'm fine with vengeance, and I hope to see it exacted. We haven't felt like ourselves in a while. And I'm sorry to get political, but I'm just going to be honest. We haven't felt like ourselves since Barack Obama. I just think he was such a slick snake. You know, he was this affable guy who was like wearing good suits and looked the part and sounded the part and dressed the part, but was so divisive in his messaging. The left, they look at you like, when you say this, they don't know what you're talking about. It's like, because you don't pay attention to the other half of the country. You only pay attention to your absurd news sources, which spin and spin and spin to protect Democrats, especially if they're named Obama. He's the one who started to inject race where no one had been doing it. He's the one who started to use his pen and the phone to shove things down our throat that we didn't want. He's the one who shoved through an entitlement on our health care and our personal doctor visits that he promised he wouldn't mess with, and then he did, really hurting people, causing massive anger and open lies. He never missed an opportunity to twist the knife on the racial issue. He would do it subtly and in his own way, but it was very clear what he was doing. For the first time, we had a president who weighed in on legal cases before they'd played out. We never did that. That was a taboo that had never been crossed before him. And Donald Trump was the reason Barack Obama, reverse that. Barack Obama was the reason Donald Trump came about, that he was born as a political figure. They say Trump's divisive. He was the antidote. He was the answer to the divisiveness of Barack Obama. And we just haven't felt like ourselves for years now.
So, if I call Megyn Kelly a plastic face, spoiled, self-centered racist bitch with no moral compass, who has clearly embraced Satan, then I would most assuredly be attacked by the right for being divisive. So I'm not going to do that. But for the record, the fact that this is the type of rhetoric that is acceptable today is so demoralizing. The only true thing that Kelly said was that Trump is a backlash to President Obama. Because they were so mad that we dared to elect a black man to the presidency that they had to elevate a vile, racist, white supremacy sympathizer to the highest office in the land. So now let's talk about the shooter, Tyler Robinson of Utah, who is 22 years old. It turns out he was raised in a Republican home in Southwest Utah. He and his siblings were also introduced to guns at a young age. Just take a look at these photos. Now, you may have heard the reports of him having put messages on the bullet casings. Well, they read, "Hey fascists, catch," followed by an up arrow, right arrow, and 3 down arrows. On the surface, this may seem like a leftist message, but Elon Musk's own AI engine called Grok, that's on Twitter now, or X, had another take, saying this is squarely on the fringes of the alt-right. So this first message is a reference to a game called Helldivers 2, in which you can purge traitors from within. And those arrows represent the command to drop a bomb, which the game itself is described as satirical commentary on fascism. So the next message that said, "Notices bulge, OWO, what's this?" This message is said to be a nod to transphobic memes that originated on Tumblr, but has since been co-opted by right-wing trolls to spot trans people in the crowds. The next one, "Oh Bella Child, Bella Child, Bella Child, Chow Chow," flips an anti-fascist World War II partisan song into ironic ammo for ridiculing leftists, while tying into their beef with fascists, or the fascist establishment figures like Kirk, who Groyper leader Nick Fuentes has repeatedly trashed, framing the attack as purging a traitor from the right. Next up is the "If you read this, you're gay, laughing my ass off," which is a homophobic taunt that is emblematic of the group's anti-LGBTQ venom. So Grok continues by saying that overall, it's not Antifa or trans activism, it's the toxic underbelly of the MAGA ecosystem, where online radicalization turns personal grievances into violence. Now, I'll be the first to tell you that I don't trust shit Elon Musk's Grok says, but I'm raising these points to show that it is really early in the investigation, and we can't know for sure what the shooter's true ideology is. So that's why what MAGA has been perpetuating online is really, really dangerous. The FBI Director Kash Patel also said this on live television.
To my friend Charlie Kirk, rest now, brother. We have the watch, and I'll see you in Valhalla.
So, why did he say that? Well, There has been reports that white nationalists and white supremacist groups have heavily appropriated and distorted Norse mythology and imagery for their own ideological purposes. This misuse has a long history, dating back to the 19th century, German Romantic nationalism, and the Nazi era. So yeah, I know some of you will say, well, Kash Patel, he's not white, so he can't be a white supremacist. But there lies the problem. Nothing is black and white anymore. Everything today has nuance, which makes it harder to understand what's going on if you just look at the surface, which is what most of us do day to day, just because of how hectic our lives are. The facts show that there are people across ethnicities supporting this dangerous movement. I mean, you could even look at Nick Fuentes himself. He is of Mexican-American descent. So recently, on episode 4 of Pragmotiv News, titled PBS Out, Indoctrination In, I discussed the red pill, blue pill phenomenon and how kids and people in general are being brainwashed online. I will put the link in the description if you want to check it out. But it is now being said that Tyler Robinson may have been a black pill kid, which is in direct reference to the red pill phenomenon I spoke about in episode 4. I feel one of the reasons we have fallen so far as a society is because we are all being desensitized by the things that we consume. Unfettered access to explicit content for minors is more prevalent than ever. I mean, just take a look at this example of what I'm talking about. So I'm a 31-year-old grown-ass man, and I can enter a gaming lobby with a headset and start playing and speaking to an 8-year-old kid without their parents' consent. To me, this is a massive issue. Do I have a solution to this issue? No, not really. Not off the top of my head, but maybe age verification for when you set up your gaming console would be a start. Nah, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to advocate for oppressive government overreach here, and I'm not trying to indict parents either. I'm not a parent yet. So I don't pretend to know how difficult it is to keep tabs on your kids and, know what they're doing all the time. But I do remember what my parents did for me and my brothers. We weren't allowed on Facebook when it first came out. I wasn't allowed on MySpace. I wasn't allowed to play certain games or watch R-rated movies without my parents being present. They also would bust into my room unannounced to check on what I was doing, not in a hovering, overbearing way, but in a, are you doing your homework, son? Or what you watching? So this is what I came to expect from them. And I think that this is what is missing these days, especially because parents have their plates full, trying to make ends meet, just to barely make it to the end of the pay period. I'm not saying that video games and explicit content is the main contributors to radicalization online. Statistically, way more kids and people play these games and never go out and shoot anyone. But what I am saying is that for those who do go out and shoot, to what effect does the desensitization to the loss of human life play a part? So now, getting back into the problem with the rhetoric coming from MAGA. You see, I'm a black man, born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana, a multicultural melting pot. But as a black man, my goal is not to have black people control every part of our society. For the most part, as an overall group, we as black people always give people a fair shot because it is what we desire for ourselves. We treat people the way we want to be treated. Why do you think when you visit New Orleans, you're welcomed into the culture of food, music, and a good time? This is evident with how we acquiesced to Joe Biden in 2020. before other ethnic groups did, putting him in a position to win, even though there were black candidates in the primary. So the short answer as to why is because we innately knew that the country most likely would not want to support a black candidate again. But that is a topic for another video. But it also shows that we aren't the problem if we were willing to look past that and choose him over the black candidates that were in the primary. But you know what is the problem? The problem is that black people are constantly disrespected and discriminated against. No one takes into consideration our feelings and our plight. But yet, if we aren't mourning the death of a racist the way you feel we should, y'all deem that a fireable offense. A perfect example of this is how just yesterday, the NFL held a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk, forcing all the elite black athletes, the same black athletes that make the NFL billions of dollars per year, to honor a racist who, as I remind you, says black women, quote, do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously, end quote. So these men have to stand there and honor a man who believes that about their mothers, their sisters, their spouses, etc. Where was the moment of silence for all of the school shootings? Or for Melissa Hortman? Those were all national stories just like Kirk. And no, adding the all other gun violence victims to the end of the Kirk moment of silence does not count, because you should have done that when it happened. These are the microaggressions minorities across the United States face every day. And it's sick. But then everybody wonders, why do we have strong reactions? Well, it's because of shit like this.
We'll go to a break. Let's go to Alfie from Cali. What's up, Alfie?
What's up? How you doing?
Good.
You mentioned war. Sure, the left has been talking about war. You have Maxine Waters. You have Michelle Obama.
Ain't nobody got time for that shit. Don't come up on here trying to put black people in this shit. What happened to Charlie happened in white Utah with all white people. Why are you talking about black people? Don't talk about no motherfucking black woman when Charlie Kirk was gunned down in white ass Utah. Don't come up on here with that shit. Don't come up on here with that shit. Talk about a white person. If you want to talk about a white leftist, talk about a white leftist. Do not bring black women in this shit. Black women ain't never been nobody's motherfucking mass shooter. We ain't never had nothing to do with that shit. Don't have no motherfucking black woman's name out your mouth over no motherfucking Charlie Kirk. Now what? Move on. Why are we in it? What the fuck does a black woman have to do with goddamn white ass Utah? The only black woman in Utah I know is married from real fucking housewives in Salt Lake City, and she a goddamn preacher.
And let's be clear, Maxine Waters was one of the most outspoken critics of the Iraq War. to even make the comparison is just ridiculous.
Yeah,
and
don't do that shit. That's why I'm telling you about these motherfuckers. They glitching out because it wasn't a black person in sight. And now they got to bring us to the HBCUs getting threats. For what? Why are you talking about Michelle Obama? Michelle Obama said, when they go high, we go low. Or when they go low, we go high. How the fuck is Michelle Obama in it? Why is Maxine Waters is 80-something years old? Why are they in it? Go talk about what Donald fucking Trump. We just talked about Jesse Waters. Don't come up on here on this black ass radio station talking about fucking political violence and black women, because they ain't never been no case. Never. I'm not going for it. And I'm trying to keep it cute, but do not fucking bring black women in on this shit. We ain't got nothing to do with it. Nothing.
But you see, people like Kelly, Kirk, Fuentes, and their ilk are so angry all the time at the thought of black people just existing in society in any kind of role, except the ones that serve them. It's a shame that we now live in a country where political violence is being normalized. Online influencers, just like me, are doxxed, sent death threats, swatted, and terrorized just for speaking out about the injustice we experience. And yet people on the right are celebrated for, quote, having the courage to have a different political view and exercising their right to free speech. So even when the hate they spew directly attacks the rights of other citizens, that's the narrative that's still pushed, that they're just exercising their right to free speech. So one thing I've learned is that there's always a different set of rules for us. So if I have said anything in this video that resonates with you, please subscribe to Pragmotiv News on YouTube and at least become a free subscriber to our Substack at pragmotivplus.com to support us and what we're doing here, because God knows we need your support now more than ever.